Hi, and welcome to another Majestic.cloud video. I am Laszlo, and today I will show you how to use AWS Config to monitor resource compliance and also automatically remediate any compliance violations. But before we start, let's see what's AWS Config. AWS Config is a service that provides a detailed view of the configuration of your AWS resources. Not only current configuration, but also past configurations, so you can see how that particular resource might have been compliant or not at any moment of time. Resources can be almost any type of AWS resources, like S3 buckets, security groups, instances, and so on. But let's get to some practical examples. Now, for example, you might want to know which of your security groups are not locked down and allow SSH access from anywhere. Even if it's compliant now, your security group might be modified by someone, and you can see how long that particular compliance violation was active, and you can also take some measures. For example, in this case, you can send a notification to an SNS topic that will fire an email to you, and you will be notified that you have a security group that was just modified by someone and allows SSH access from anywhere. Another use case is, for example, with public access for S3 buckets. So you can create a rule to check permanently if your buckets have public access enabled. If one of your buckets has public access, or if someone sets in the future public access to your buckets, you can automatically start a remediation process. This remediation process uses AWS Systems Manager to bring your resources back to compliance. In this case, the buckets. You can also go in and change, remediate manually the resource. We will also go through this scenario in this video a little bit later. The third use case is for EC2 instance size enforcement. For example, you might want to enforce a T2 micro instance size for your developers on the dev account, so they work with that instance size and not bigger instances that will generate more costs. You can set up a rule in AWS Config, and it will check once every 24 hours or when a particular instance is changed if the instance size complies to your rule. If not, automatically resizes the instance to your desired size using AWS Systems Manager. This will be the third use case that we will cover in this video. Of course, there are a lot more use cases for AWS Config, but we will go through these three in order for you to make an idea of what AWS Config is and how can you use it for monitoring resource compliance and take automatic measures to remedy these compliance violations. So let's get started with the first example. Before we can actually use AWS Config, we need to create a role in IAM. So this role will be used by Systems Manager to automatically remediate our policy violations. So you need to go to Identity and Access Management, or IAM, and let's create a role here. You see here some warning messages, but these are some tests that I did, and you probably don't have them and you don't need to mind these. So let's create a role. This will be a service role, EC2. We need to choose EC2 here and go on the permissions. Here we search for SSM in this search box, and then choose Amazon SSM automation role. Next is the tags page. We don't add any tags. We will call this config remediation role. Okay, let's create the role. it's created, it's here. I will open it and I will add some inline policies here because our role will be used by Systems Manager to access some services. So let's see which services we want to access. For the security group example, we need to send SNS notifications through SNS, so we need SNS. For the buckets example, we need to access S3 to remediate the bucket permissions, and for the third example with the EC2 instances, we need to access EC2, of course. So let's add some inline policies. The first one will be S3, or no, SNS. I said SNS first, so let's do SNS. I will allow all SNS actions, so this will be a full access permission or policy. You can fine grain it and only allow the permissions you need, but I will give full access for right now to be quicker. So I will call this SNS full access. Let's create the policy. Okay, so it's added. We add one for S3. Okay, sorry, S3. All S3 actions. Here we just need to specify all resources. Let's call this S3 full access. Create it. Then let's create one for EC2 as well. EC2. All EC2 actions. Here choose all resources and give it a name. Okay, now we have the three inline policies for EC2, S3 and SNS. Now we need to go to trust relationships and edit the trust relationships here where we have the service. Actually we need more services added here, so we'll create here another option which will be SSM, two S's here, SSM Amazon AWS.com. Okay, so this should be fine. Let's update the trust policy. Okay, and our role should be fine. So now what I want to do is to copy this RN, because I will need this in AWS Config later. Okay, so this role has been set up and we can now go to config. Here you just put config, and if you didn't use config before, you get this splash screen, and you can click on get started. Here we are greeted with a default settings screen. We will need to create a bucket in which we will store configuration history and other data. It offers a default option. I will just say mc config as config3. Let's say it like that. Here you might have the option to create a new service linked role if you didn't use AWS Config before. So I will use an existing service role because I have used it before and I have the role created, but it will create it automatically for you if you don't have it, and choose the option here. Okay, click on next. Here it offers us a few default rules that are created by the AWS team. We'll skip this for now. Click on the next, and here we need to confirm. Okay, this should be ready in a few seconds. Let's wait for it. Okay, so now the config dashboard is shown, and we can go ahead and start our first rule, which will be for checking for open security groups, I mean open port 22. So let's click on add rule, and here you have the option to add a custom rule. You can create your custom rule, but the AWS team has already created this SSH rule, so I will search for it, SSH, and I have this rule here. I will click on it. Here in the first part I don't need to set any options right now, and only on the remediation action I will need to specify some things. So I want automatic remediation, and in this case the remediation action will be publish SNS notification. Here you have a bunch of remediation actions, but these are not specific to this rule. These are for all AWS services, so they might not fit for this case, but publish SNS notification is fine. Here for the resource ID parameter I don't need to choose anything right now, and here I have the options I need to fill in. So the automation assume role, here I need to paste the RN of the role that we just created, so I paste it there. You can see this is the RN string. The message here can be anything, so I will put SSH rule broken. This will be delivered via email. And the topic RN, here I need to put in the RN of the topic, but we don't have an SNS topic yet, so I will search SNS here and let's go create a topic. Okay, and here on the topics I will create a topic. Let's call it notify me. I have used this name before and I like it. So let's create topic and also create a subscription. Here I choose for the protocol email, and the endpoint should be the email address. So I will put here no reply at Majestic.cloud. So this email address doesn't exist, so you don't need to send any emails to this because I will not get it. Let's create the subscription. Here you see it's pending confirmation, so you will get an email from Amazon. You need to confirm the subscription. Okay, so I will go back to my topic and copy the RN, this one here, and I will go back to config and paste it in here. So this is okay for now. Let's save this rule. Okay, and now it says evaluating. This might take a minute or two, depends on how big your AWS infrastructure is. This being a small account should be fast. Still, I will pause the video for a minute or two until it finds something. Let's try again. Okay, so you see that I have one non-compliant resource. Let's go in and see. So this security group here is non-compliant. You see that the remediation action has been executed successfully, so the email was sent. I will not get it because I don't have that email configured, but if you put a real email there, you should get an email. So let's go to the security group and see here the compliance timeline. So there is no compliance timeline found for this security group, for this rule I mean. Let's open EC2 and find this security group that I have, it's not compliant, so it should be this one. So on EC2 I will go to security groups, and you see here is this one, yeah, with the 17 in the front of it. So this security group is not compliant. Let's see the inbound rules. We see here that we have port 22 open to the world. Let's edit this and change it to my IP. So it's not open to the world anymore, it will be open just for this IP. Okay, let's save it, and now I will go back to config, and let's go and re-evaluate this rule. And this re-evaluation takes a bit of time, a minute or two again. and I will pause the video until then. Let's check again. It's still non-compliant. I will wait a bit more. Okay, so now you can see that we are compliant again. It evaluated it again and it says it's compliant. Let's go here and choose the compliant resources. Here is the resource that we made compliant, and we still don't have a compliance timeline. This is probably takes a little bit of time. Okay, let's go back and create another rule, this time for our S3 buckets. This is our second use case. So let's add the rule, and we also have for this rule defined by the AWS team. We'll search for public and it's not here. S3 bucket so it's this one, S3 bucket public read prohibited. Okay, so it checks that your S3 buckets do not allow public read access. So if it allows read access, the bucket is non-compliant. Okay, let's define a remediation action. The remediation action in this case will be disable S3 bucket public read write. This is also Systems Manager automation document. I will show you at the end of this video where those are. And you can define, of course, your own remediation documents if you know how to do that. I will choose this one, AWS disable S3 bucket public read. Okay, I want auto remediation, not manual. And I will need here to define some options, like for example the resource ID. Here I will need to specify the bucket name. So this will input the bucket name to the remediation function. So this will become grayed, you can't edit it. Otherwise you would be able to put here a bucket name, but we want this to be automatic, so we choose bucket name. And for the role, which we paste the same role RN that we've created before. Now we save this, and it will also start evaluating our infrastructure, and this will take a bit of time. Let's refresh this page. So, okay, I already have one non-compliant resource. So this bucket was non-compliant, this S3 bucket, and a remediation action was successfully executed on it. So I didn't open S3 to show you that the bucket has public read, and now if we open it, it should already have been remediated. So let's see S3, and I have this uncompliant, this is now compliant because it has block public access to this bucket enabled. Before it was off for both of these, but configure automatically executed the remediation action. Let's see where this happens. I will open Systems Manager because we will need to look at that as well. So we have AWS Systems Manager, and you have here this automation option, and if you look at it, we have this automation execution for, you see, for disable public read write, which happened today, and it executed an action. for the bucket that I had there. Okay, so let's go back to this rule and let's modify it. I will want to disable the automatic remediation. I will want manual remediation, because in not every case you want automatic remediation. You might have a valid reason to have a public S3 bucket. So I will click on auto remediation no, save this and go back to S3 and allow public access again. Let's save it. I have to confirm. Okay, I should have this one public again. Okay, let's re-evaluate the rule, but let's see now. So you see here that everything is off. Now let's go to config and re-evaluate this. I should have this rule uncompliant again. I mean this rule to find an uncompliant resource. We need to wait a bit. Okay, so you can see I have one non-compliant resource again, but this time it should not have executed a remediation action, because yeah, this is some cache result. It auto remediation is off, so it didn't execute it. If I go back to S3 and I reload this page, it's still off. And now I can come here, check this finding and click on remediate, and now the action execution is queued, and in a few moments, if I reload this here, I should have on for some of these options. So let's reload this page, and you can see that now this is on and this is on. So it automatically removed public read from this bucket. And if we wait a bit more, my resources should be compliant again. It's still not compliant. Let's check again. And now my resource is compliant because I have executed a manual remediation. Okay, so let's go for our third use case with the EC2 instances. Here I will go to EC2. I already have a T2 micro instance. I will launch 2 additional instances. I will leave Amazon Linux 2 here. I will make them T2 Nano, so these will be not compliant from the beginning, because T2 Micro will be the compliant type. I want 2 instances. I will add storage, add tags. Here I want to add a tag. I will add the tag SSM true, because I want to add these instances to Systems Manager for Systems Manager to run automation on them. I will choose a security group. I will select the default security group. This is fine. Here I will launch them. I don't even want to connect to them, so it doesn't matter what key pair I choose here. So I will also go to this first instance and I will add the tags to it. I will add tag SSM true. Okay, so I will have 3 instances, 1 compliant T2 micro and 2 non-compliant. And I will go to Systems Manager here and we'll go to Managed Instances, to Inventory, let's set up inventory by specifying a tag, and for the tag I will use the same tag as I've added to the instances, SSM true. So set up inventory, and it should find those instances that I have tagged with this tag. Okay, until it does this, I will close this one, I don't need it. We'll go back to config and add another rule. This rule will be instance. This is also a already made rule by AWS. So I will choose this one, desired instance type. Okay. And here I will need to fill in parameters. So here for instance type I want to evaluate for T2 micro, so it will search, and this rule will be compliant only if the instance type is T2 micro, otherwise it will be not compliant. I want to choose an automatic remediation action, so it will be resize instance, auto remediation yes. For the resource ID parameter I will need to specify the instance ID. This will be fed as a parameter here, and for the role I will also need to input my RN for the role I've created in the beginning. And for the desired instance type I will also put here T2 micro. So if it finds any instances that are not T2 micro, it will resize them to T2 micro. And I want to I will not save it until I check EC2 and I can see that my instances are all launched. Okay, now I will save this rule and then it's evaluating. So right now we will need to look here, because once it has found that the resources are non-compliant, it will start taking action and it will stop these two instances and resize them to T2 micro. I will wait a bit until it evaluates and then show you how automatically the resize process starts. So it already detected two non-compliant resources, the two EC2 instances, and if I do refresh here in a couple of seconds, I will see that it started to take action. Let's close S3, and it takes a bit of time. It depends on what else config needs to do. So the action execution is queued for one of the instances, so I should already see, okay, you see that it's stopping. The instance is right now stopping, and after it stopped it will be resized to T2 micro. Right now it's T2 nano. Let's check again here. So for both, right now action execution is queued. So one of my instances already stopped and the other one is pending because it has already been changed to T2 micro. So this is still T2 nano, but it should change in a couple of seconds. The first one has already been resized and it's running. Let's hit here, you see this one is also T2 micro right now and it's pending. So config found these non-compliant resources and used system manager to execute automation on them. So if I click here on automation, you see AWS resize instance is in progress. So This is how AWS Config uses Systems Manager to take remediation actions on your non-compliant resources. You see that Config is a very powerful tool to check for compliance, audit for compliance, and it can save you a lot of headache and manual work. Now, one last thing I want to show you before I end this video is here in Systems Manager. Down here I have the documents, and here we have some documents for the remediation actions. Actually, these are the documents that are shown here. If I click on edit, here is the remediation actions, and we have a bunch of remediation actions here. These are all documents defined here in Systems Manager. Let's find the one with the instance resize. I think it's EC2. No, it's AWS Resize instance. So AWS Resize. Okay, so this one. This is an automation document. You can see here the content. Basically, it's a YAML file, and it has some definitions here, which you can copy and modify, and you can create your own automation document and execute automation based on this one. In a future video I will also talk about Systems Manager, because this is a very powerful tool. But for now, let's end this video here. I hope you liked it and learned some new things, and if you did, please click on the like button, and also you can click on the bell icon to get notified whenever I post new videos. I hope you will have a great day, and see you in a future video.